Hey guys, welcome to another Brewster podcast. I have a couple of guests joining us this time. First will be Randy Wiegand, GM of the Havana Sugar Kings. Randy's only been with us since late 2031, but Havana looks quite a bit different headed into the 2033 season, so I thought that was worth talking about. Havana has been a moribund franchise with multiple GM changes in recent years. Frankly, they've been rather directionless, and Randy has kind of turned that around. We'll also discuss the state of the division a little bit. Thanks for joining me, Randy.
Hey, what's up, man?
Welcome to the show. We were going to have Mike, but due to the problems I had recording stuff and figuring it out, Cal Russo couldn't be here, which sucks because we traded some players to each other and it would have been a neat thing to talk about. So sorry about that.
That's all right. I've traded with everybody, so if you wanted to you'd have to do basically the entire league if you wanted everybody having been involved with.
Yeah, well, I always found you pretty easy to work with. We made a couple deals, and I think they've been good fits for both of us. But essentially, you took over like a directionless, like floundering franchise. You had like different pieces at different ages, like a couple 30-year-olds, like a 25-year-old, and then a bunch of teenagers, and it's so.
I inherited a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and that's perfect. This like what we found out when I was doing these talents. Since there's no visual cues, just interrupt the other person when you've got something to say. Otherwise, I will ramble forever.
Sure.
So what did you think? Yeah, so you thought you got a dumpster fire, and there's more talent in that franchise now that you have than there used to be, and I don't really know how well it got there, even looking at the trade. So maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought, or was it really that bad?
There was some stuff in the minors. The minor system, I think when I took it over, was either ranked second or third. So there was some stuff there to work with, but the majors, the Brewster level was just, to call it a shit show would not do it justice. It was just awful. Obviously, the first big move, the first thing I realized was, look, anybody who has a big contract is worthless because this team is not going to be ready to contend at the time, immediate future. So the first big move was getting rid of Rodriguez. That was the first piece that had to go, and he was obviously the most attractive to the rest of the league because $16 million is not cheap for a guy who could front a rotation, but it's not necessarily, as Atlantic City proved last season, it's not the most you're going to pay for a top-end pitcher either.
No, it's not. It's not a horrible deal. It's not a great deal. I think the thing with Rodriguez that probably you weren't around for it stumbled. There was a big debate on how good he was going to be. Like everywhere from people being he'll be this amazing Hall of Fame starter to he's like a 2-WAR starter, and it all centered around his motion, which we found out is kind of like low 7, high 6. But for a long time, we actually thought maybe it's just like low 6. He was giving up all these home runs. He never seemed to like play the way we thought he would. And I don't know if that's what made it so hard for you to move him, is he had kind of all that baggage among the owners previous in the league that just didn't know what he was.
Well, I think me not knowing a lot of the backstory behind Rodriguez kind of made it easier for me to move him in a sense, because I was able to completely eliminate that part of the debate and go, look, I don't know what happened with this guy before, but here's what I'm dealing now. I'm dealing a guy who could, best case, he's probably a number 2 in reality. He can be he's an ace on a team that's going to contend for a wild card, but if you're looking to do any damage, he's got to be your number 2. And I knew I wanted a center fielder because I didn't have one. So, and I didn't have
a tough position to play a chump at.
I didn't have anybody coming up either. I had some minor league talent, like I mentioned, but none of it was remotely capable of playing center field on a good team. So there were 2 teams I was talking with. One obviously was Phoenix, who I made the deal with for Kamade, and the other one, it was for a similar type player, similar age, similar kid, probably a little better, frankly. I'll leave them out. They can out themselves on the forums if they want to. But that deal was, like I said, it was for probably a player that was a little better, but I would have had to send a smaller piece out. And I like the fact that I was getting somebody back from Phoenix in addition to Kamade. I got back Feliciano Rafael, who at the time was, I believe, a single A, maybe early double A pitcher, 19-year-old. Had some talent. He ended up blowing up for me in the minors this year. He ran through both double and triple A, and he's actually going to start in my rotation next year as a just turned 20-year-old. He's going to be my number 4 starter. I'm going to give him a shot.
Did he have 9 or 8 stuff when you got him?
Rafael, I think he had. It was either 8. It was 8 or 9. I can't remember exactly. Let me see if I can. I'll try to find it while we're talking here.
Because right now, he's a good looking starter. Like, he's going to have home run problems, but
Yeah, but
as the extra player in the commodity deal, I think you actually came out pretty well. Not to
and I basically had a choice between him or a couple of high end relief prospects. And since I subscribe to the philosophy that you can do a bullpen on the fly and just kind of win it, I went with the starter. Who, I mean, frankly, I thought he would be this far along, but I did not think he would be this quickly.
no.
So
that's always nice when they just show up at 20 years old.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started him in Double-A. He ran through that. I mean, he actually started as a reliever there before I realized what was happening and made him a starter. He ran through that, so I gave him basically 13 starts in AAA, and he put up, I mean, a WAR, 1.5 WAR in 13 starts, which is, I mean, more than respectable.
Yeah, and that seems like kind of the turning point for like Havana as a franchise. Like he finally moved Rodriguez, and then the dominoes just started falling. Like it was like just flip this guy for a couple more guys, and now you have
well, actually, I think the big one of the that was the start, but the move that I feel was huge for me was it was a 2-part move. The first one was getting Hector Cantu from Yellow Springs. He was one of the Ron's infamous blue light specials where he says, "Hey, send me any random prospect and he's yours."
Yeah,
so
I just wish we'd done that now.
I picked him up for literally some single A closer that I said, "Hey, who do you want?" He threw a name. And I said, "Sure, fine, yours." And then I put him in a platoon in right field, and he, for the first month and a half, 2 months, absolutely tore the cover off the ball. I'm talking like 350, you know what I mean, 10 homers. So I flipped him to Vegas because Matt had some injuries and needed help.
Yeah, you hit him in the ankle with a bat and then traded him to Matt.
No, yeah. But and then not only did I get Joyride to be a right field platoon guy both last season and this upcoming season for dirt cheap, but the key piece there was I got John Reed.
I don't know that I'm as high as Reed as you are. I mean, he could be amazing. He could make you angry.
He's going to have control issues. He's going to walk a lot of guys. But he's also not going to give up really many hits.
No, he's one of those guys. I think you'll always be a little frustrated at times.
I mean, he's never, despite his 5-star rating, he's never going to lead a rotation, I don't think, because he's just going to have too many control issues. But he's the sort of guy that you could see one day throwing one of those 7-walk no-hitters.
Yeah. I wonder about the homers again, too. Like, some of the guys with six movement, okay. Some of them give up the long ball like it's their job.
Well, and I think in my ballpark right now is not necessarily the most pitcher friendly. But like I said, I have hopes for, and then when I pair him with the guys I got from you, with Kinney and Pena, I think I got a pretty decent rotation. And not only that, I mean, Reed may not turn out to be as good as his ratings indicate, but Cantu was asking for $10 million in free agency before I traded.
Yeah.
So I got him for a single A International League type closer. So I basically got a guy in Reed for nothing. Plus I got 2 other guys that I had to throw in that because Matt and I had to work out some salary stuff. Right. So I gave up 2 prospects who were blocked for me in Moore and Perez.
And Perez is a nice looking catcher. Like Matt will get something about that. Either playing him when Brewer's gone or flipping him for something else.
Oh, Perez! I think Perez is a very good prospect, but I have Gamboa at catcher, and I mean, right.
You're never going to get anywhere. That's what I think we've seen you do. Is like you had like 15 second basemen and shortstops and a bunch of catching prospects and nothing else. Like it was, and you've done a pretty good job of that. I thought you took advantage of the tough market um, for Whiffler.
Wilfer was that one. That was the other deal that he and Rodriguez were my two big contracts. Rodriguez was fairly easy to move because that one, I mean, there was going to be a market for him, and I just had to figure out what I wanted. Wilfer, and you're right, that deal did create a little bit of controversy.
Well,
I am not necessarily the biggest fan of Rodriguez. I think he's a great fielder. He's a little pricier than I was hoping he would be, especially since he kicked my ass in arbitration this offseason. And as far as the other pieces in that trade, the Moreno Estrada, that was strictly, and I mean, as anybody who was tracking at the time knows, that those were late add-ons after we realized that Huntsville had salary cap issues.
right. Well, and neither one of them, like, Moreno was going to free agency.
Yeah, and I had him literally for a week. So I had him for like 2 real-time days and a week simulation-wise.
Right. He was asking for like 6 or 7 million more per year than he is a free agent right now.
Yeah, he was asking. He wouldn't even negotiate with me when I had him.
Right. So it looks bad on paper when you see the names, but I agree. Rodriguez has his warts. Moreno was gone. Huntsville had to do something with the cap. I mean, you got a sweet deal out of that for what Rodriguez.
I definitely did. I mean,
not as bad as it looked. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the pieces I flipped Moreno for. I mean, Gibson was a former top end pick that I'm just hoping rediscovers something in my bullpen at this point.
Well, he's come back a little, right? Like,
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, he's never, with the guys I have not only in my rotation now and also coming up, he's never going to crack my rotation.
No, but a lefty with good stuff out of the pen that he can play. He'll be around.
Oh yeah, I mean, he actually did better for Brooklyn than he did for me, but that was because we were also both trying him as starter, and I think once I shift him to the bullpen, he'll rediscovered something that made him worth such a high draft pick in the first place.
Yeah, you could. And so, to kind of recap where we were, you moved these two vets. That kind of got the ball rolling. You have some smaller moves in there that they were kind of just shuffling for efficiency. But then the last 3 moves you made this recently this offseason are kind of what set you up. And we can just go with, since we already talked about a little bit, our deal, as you were saying, we were trying to get this to work early, came together in like 45 minutes, and if we'd been in the same room, it would have been 5. And it was one of those, for me, it was one of those things that just worked. I've had this huge pitching surplus. It is very difficult to get a high-end position player if you're not picking in the top 10. And while I didn't get like an amazing impact bat, I got a well above average shortstop bat and an awesome dispenser in Flores. And
I love Flores. I absolutely love Jesus Flores. I think he has the potential to be a multi-team all-star in this league. I think I am a little higher on his bat than I think a lot of other people are. I mean, he's never going to have a tremendous OPP, but he's one of those guys that's got, I think, sneaky power and can run.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ignore that sneaky power. Like they think it's easy to look at a guy and go, he's not a 30 home run hitter, but maybe he's a 17 home run hitter, and that is a lot of value. It's just more.
And also, people I think are forgetting with him. He's 20 years old, or maybe 21 now.
Right.
But it's like the kid. By all rights, he should still be in like Double-A. It's just that he was, I think, fairly far advanced. I think I skipped him directly. He skipped Triple-A for me. I just brought him straight up because, frankly, I thought he was ready. And last year I thought I would be so bad. I actually did a lot better than I thought I would last year. That I wanted to give some of my kids a shot and let them take their lumps at the big league level while my team was terrible. So I brought him up, but when I knew I needed pitching and you had mentioned that you needed, I had some shortstop, third base flexibility to work with. I had a glut of guys over there between Wareham, Flores, Cunningham. And you said you wanted Flores, and I knew you had pitching, and we were able to work it out fairly quickly, and I think we're both going to be happier for it. I know
Yeah,
you really liked Kinney, and to
I,
a lesser extent Pena, I think.
I do. I think I sold high on both of them, which you're savvy enough that you probably recognize that a little too. Because they both had outstanding years last year, and I don't know that they're quite that good. But
But yeah, and I think Flores is a lot better than what he showed.
yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Um,
And
you know,
frankly, and like I told you when we were negotiating, I wouldn't have done the deal just one for one because you're right, they're probably not as good as they showed. But if I can get two of them, chances are one will flop and the other will do. You know what I mean? Make it worth my while.
yeah, and King's, it's OTP. It loves its lefties. The uh, 8 stuff, 7 movement, 6 control right-handed pitcher is nothing special. For some reason, some of the lefties with the same ratings are quite good. Kinney stuff has to be closer to 9. I don't know how you have 4 pitches rated 8 and your stuff is 8. It kind of makes
Yeah,
you wonder about the internal calculator at some point.
I
Um,
agree, and I also like his intangibles too. That was another big point for me.
yeah, right. He's a really good clubhouse guy. Pena. I think Pena's interesting, and that's a little bit of a segue to your next trade because I think it's a little interesting that you like Pena, and I do too. I mean, I drafted him, I played him, but you like Pena as a pitcher who's basically a knuckleballer. But then you got rid of a knuckleballer who looks like an absolute beast because you don't trust knuckleballers.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to bring this up.
So let's,
Well,
I mean,
that's the thing I like about Pena is he has other pitches as well. Not necessarily he's not doesn't have a multitude of other pitches, but he does have some. Whereas Iron Knife, who I traded for Nunez, was a centerpiece of that deal. He's pretty much just a straight knuckleballer. I mean, I think he has I forget what his other pitch is right now off the top of my head. He has a second one.
it's a fork. Is that what it
Maybe.
is? I was looking at this when I was getting ready for this earlier today.
But and also, I mean, he's a lot further away at this point.
Right. Yeah, really far. Like far enough that he could just be a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, he's spent 2 years. He's 18, but he spent the last 2 years in rookie ball, and frankly, didn't light it up either year.
No, he's actually 19 now, and he's
That's even worse.
only 3.52. So he's behind the curve.
Yeah, and I mean, and like I said, it's not like he tore up rookie ball.
No, he didn't, and he may get there, he may not. The thing I like about Iron Knife is that if he works out, he's got 11 stamina. He throws a knuckleball. And one thing I don't know how many people know how this works because I like to make players and goof around with the numbers and see what happens to see if I can get some kind of an edge. But I don't know how many people know like the movement is a combination of the internal movement rating and the ground ball fly ball tendency. So the fact that he's an extreme fly ball pitcher with 8 movement is an incredible combination. Like if you switched his fly ball tendency to extreme ground ball tendency and changed nothing else, you just changed that number, his movement would be like 10 or higher. So
Interesting.
there's a little bit of a it's something I look at with pitchers. It doesn't bear out often because movement's such a rare rating, but some guys see like fly ball pitcher, oh no, 6 movement fly ball pitcher, that guy's going to give up a lot of home runs. Yeah, but it's actually mitigated somewhat by the fact that he probably has what would be 7 or 8 movement if he threw ground balls more. So hey, it's a weird little thing. So
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, Nunez was a guy I'd actually pursued dating back to the deadline last year because he's on. We were talking about this similar topic earlier with Rodriguez as far as the contracts go. Nunez has an even more reasonable contract. It starts at I'm looking it up now. I think it's like 12.
it's
And for
12, 12, 5, 13, 13, 5, and a team option for 14.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very reasonable, and he's got all the again going back to intangibles. And I frankly I wanted somebody who, because I knew I was gonna have a bunch of kids in the rotation, and I wanted a grown up in the club. I wanted a grown up at the head of it all.
I will say, like, I don't really like that trade for you. Like, I've never been big on Nunez. I'm looking at him now. I always thought he was a little homer prone. He's really not. Um, he's high acceptable. Like, his worst year was this last year with 36, but usually he's right around 29 to 30, which isn't terrible. Not if you strike everybody out, which he does.
Yeah.
Who else did you move?
I moved Weaver, another catcher, AAA.
Yeah, Weaver's like a quad A guy.
And then Morgan, who's another, I think he's a 16 or 17-year-old rookie ball kid,
Yeah.
which, I mean,
You
talk
don't
about
know.
a.
You could really, again, Morgan's one of those guys. He could be nothing, but he's also bumping his velocity at 16, which means that 7.87 he is could end up 10.87, and there's a potential Hall of Famer.
I think, I mean, I would not be surprised if Morgan ended up having a better career than Iron Knife.
Yeah, he could. And what are the odds both of them develop? Who knows? Some people would say it's as low as, 50% you get one of them. Some people would say, hey, you're going to get both. It's really tough to know. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a bad move. I can't make myself do it. And kudos to you that you can go, this is my window, but I can never send out that much. And this is why I don't make a lot of deals and people get frustrated with me.
Well, and also the thing that helped me with the Nunez trade was that, I mean, my team, I think, advanced a lot further, and with all the moves I made, it came further along than I thought it would quicker. But also, the guaranteed part ends his contract in 2036. And that's right when most of my guys come up. So I can essentially make the move to let him go either in 2036 or 2037 and still have the ability to pay my guys. Like I in prep for this earlier, I did this, like Gauna, who I love at first base. I have him through 2037, Wareham through 2035, Cunningham 2037, Gamboa 2035, and all my pitchers are after that. So basically, it wasn't a great heartache for me to take on the money because I'm not going to have to pay a bunch of guys before then anyway.
No, and that's the part of the game we've got to look at that I think a lot of us don't do as good of a job as is that salary page there under the front office tab is for a reason, and that's you should be looking at that going, okay, I've got 20 million in 2 years, I've got 30 million in 3 years. Where can I, if you're not spending money in a season, either
I have
use it later, great. Otherwise, it's just gone. So
I have nobody. The only person I have coming off my books this year guaranteed is Allen who is frankly might be cut before the season starts anyway, and that's 13 million because he's dead weight at this point. And then the only people I have next year are Rodriguez, who I mentioned earlier, and Joyride. And other than that, those are the only guys that I'm losing potentially before the end of the 2035 season. So I have 2 years. Basically, my team is locked in place for the next 2 years.
And it's looking pretty good. Like especially you kind of fixed your outfield platoon in that Gorwin move you picked up.
Yeah, Gowron's going to be he's going to hit lefties because he doesn't hit. I mean, he had 24 homers against righties last year, but he also had an OBP of, I want to say, under 300.
I would wonder if you wanted to try to squeeze him in a little bit more against like the weak righties. Now that
I thought about that, but Joyride, he hits righties really well. I'm talking like 400 OBP with defense and stealing bases.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, if Joyride gets hurt, or if I need him to play a different outfield position because of injuries, I don't have heartburn playing Gowron against righties.
You know,
But if everybody stays healthy, because Joyride, in addition to being my right hand platoon, he's my super backup in the outfield because he can play everywhere well.
so I mean, after all those moves, your team looks good next year. I mean, your lineup looks tremendous. I mean,
I honestly think I'm gonna put this on record right now. If my team stays healthy, I'll be disappointed if I don't make the wild card.
I think you have a chance at the division. I mean, I think you're better than
The
that.
thing is, I think Matt and Vegas, they're the best until proven otherwise. I mean, I think next year might be a little. I would ultimately, in a few years, I think this team is absolutely capable of making a division run. I think next year might be a little early just because I have a lot of kids still.
It could be. The thing with Matt is that he's been losing pitching to attrition for a few years now, and it's starting to get a little ugly. And ugly for Matt is different than the rest of us. Ugly for Matt means he doesn't have four aces, but
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, and even Mike's got a good setup too with his, especially once he gets Wick back.
and that's why I actually wanted to have Mike here, and it sucks that I couldn't figure this out earlier. Or Matt, but he couldn't do this today, so I'm going to try to find some time with him tomorrow. And I'm looking at his team, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Velasco probably isn't as good as last year, but he's fine. Romero will be back. He's got Jesus Ramos and Pac Tang coming up, so his starting's just pitching.
Matt, he may not win 100 games next year, but I think he'll be fine as far as the division goes.
Yeah, you're right. Now that I look at this, I just want someone to beat Matt. I love Matt.
The wild card's gonna because the Atlantic is an absolute monster on paper, but I think I think Charm City obviously is legitimately talented. I think Jacksonville is going to rebound a little bit. I think they were a little bit disappointed with how last year went, despite getting the wild card.
Right.
But I did the preview for Atlantic City last year, and I mentioned at the time that signing those two big guys, that the short term is going to be good, but you better have an exit strategy because that's going to get ugly real fast. And I think the reckoning time, while it may not be this year, is coming.
It might be this year, though. That's a tough wild card, but I still think you got. I mean, your lineup is intense.
It's one of the. I'm really happy with especially because if I hit. I mean, Galrun, who's hit 40 homers last year, is probably going to be hitting the bottom third of my lineup.
Right. And Gamboa's good, Goana's good, Wareham's a terrific hitter, Joyride gets on base, Cooper gets on base, Kamadi's a tremendous top of the lineup threat.
Kamadi and Rodriguez are kind of they're going to set up the bottom half for Galrun for me.
Oh, geez,
and I've got Cunningham too, who his ratings aren't great, but you look at the numbers he's put up, he outperforms him every year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust.
But I mean, it's one of those where, top to bottom, I love my lineup. My pitching is talented but unproven at bat. I mean, after Nunez, my guys are going to have a combined, I think, year and a half between the four guys of Major League Service.
Well, it's unproven. I don't put it past you to pick up a pitcher. I mean, there's some people you go into the season and they go, well, that's what they've got. We know that you're going to make trades. You already made 42 of them. So probably
that's true, but I think at this point I'm content with my rotation unless another move precipitates something. The thing, I mean, right now I'm just mainly looking at fine tuning a few things with my offense long term trade wise, but I think I'm actually about done. So it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting season for the Havana Sugar Canes this year because, like I said, we've got a lot of talent, but not a lot of experience.
No, but it's nice to see because it's a rudderless franchise forever. I cut out a little portion here because Randy and I got a bit off topic again, of course, but eventually got back to how he won quite a few more games than he expected, and we'll pick up again with his reasoning for that.
And I think that also kind of speaks to the top-heavy division that I'm in because, I mean, Matt's great. Mike had a great year, but the rest of us were, frankly, not very good.
Right. Hawaii is going to be good in a few seasons. but they're not there right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I may be at the front end of that group. I think the rest may be a few years behind me with similar plans.
Right.
And so I think in a few years this division could be good, but right now it's Matt, then small gap Mike, and then big gap in the rest of us. At least at this point, I plan on closing that gap or eliminating it, but for right now, that just isn't the case.
And it would have been really nice to have Mike here because I don't know how his teams win. I don't understand it. Like 7 or 8, I don't know that many, 5 or 6. I don't know. A few years back, I previewed his team and I wrote that he should sell Ramirez or Ornelas. He was fresh off like a couple deep playoff runs, but he had like 16s and 17-year-olds in the minors and those 2 pitchers, and that was pretty much it. And he was even like, "Yeah, I just can't do it. I can't let those guys go. You know, they're my franchise. I love them." And he kept, for the last few years, he kept winning like 83 games with like a plus 14 pith. And every year I predict that he would win 65 games or 70 games because, you know, randomness would sort itself out. And he kept winning, and I kept looking like a jerk. And then the last 2 years, he's been a playoff contender. And I don't know how. I have no idea. He has no offense, like none. He has 11 rated defenders at every position and one of the best staffs I've ever seen. But no bats at all. I'm a pitching first guy. I'm a pitching and defense guy, so it's not like I build these big offenses. I don't know how he's doing it. And so it would have been neat to kind of have him here to get a little input on that, especially since I don't know how he's going to hit this year. Thomas is gone. Galran, there goes all of his home runs. Like I don't, and he's just going to win 90 games again. I don't.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Like I said, Wick was a big blow for him.
That sucks, man. And that's I made John Wick. That was my Amy submission.
I mean that was a. I mean I'm going to benefit from it, but that was a kick in the nuts, and I don't wish that on anybody.
I just hope the injury doesn't hurt him. Like I just hope he comes back and is still good. So that's thanks a lot for coming, Randy. I think it was like Havana's changed so much, even though they won't be Havana anymore, that I thought it was kind of worth looking at. I mean, this is one of the better lost franchise to competitive that I've seen in a while, and just kind of appreciate your input into how you did that and how it came together.
Well, we've got a couple droughts to end. I don't think we made the playoffs since 2017, and if we have one to land us, it's been since like the first 5 years of the league. So we've got some work to do to try to add some banners to the whatever building we happen to be playing in at the time.
Yeah, get some work to do. You're absolutely right.
I mean, and it's because it's. I mean, it's been an embarrassment to have a franchise around that long and be that unsuccessful.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens, but I don't like it to happen on my watch.
All right, well, that's it for this part of the show. Thanks to Randy for joining us, and I hope to have you back sometime.
Thanks, Ted.